Lying is as old as human communication itself. From small social fabrications meant to spare feelings to elaborate deceptions designed to manipulate, protect, or control, lying sits at the crossroads of psychology, survival, morality, and power. To understand how to spot deception, one must first understand the psychology of a liar, not as a villain in a story, but as a human navigating fear, desire, insecurity, and self-preservation. At its core, lying is a psychological strategy. People lie not simply because they want to deceive, but because telling the truth feels more dangerous than bending it. The liar's mind is often working overtime, managing information, anticipating reactions, and suppressing emotional leakage. This mental load leaves traces. Deception is rarely perfect, and those traces are what make lies detectable. Why people lie. The motivation behind a lie shapes how it is delivered. Some lies are defensive. A person lies to avoid punishment, shame, or rejection. These lies are driven by fear and are often reactive. Others are offensive or strategic, designed to gain advantage, status, admiration, or control. These lies tend to be more calculated and rehearsed. There are also identity-based lies. Some individuals lie not just to others but to themselves. They construct false narratives to protect their self-image, avoid confronting painful truths, or maintain a sense of superiority or victimhood. These lies can be deeply ingrained and emotionally charged, making them harder to spot because the liar partially believes them. Understanding motivation matters because it influences behavior. A fearful liar behaves differently from a predatory one. A habitual liar differs from someone telling a one-time lie under pressure. The cognitive load of lying. Truth-telling is neurologically efficient. When people tell the truth, they recall information and report it. Lying, however, requires multiple mental steps. Inventing a story, ensuring it is plausible, keeping it consistent, monitoring the listener's reaction, and suppressing the truth. This creates cognitive strain. This strain often leaks through subtle behaviors. A liar may pause longer before answering, speak more slowly, or overcorrect with excessive detail. They may struggle with timelines, confuse sequences, or contradict themselves when asked the same question in different ways. The brain is juggling too much at once. One of the most reliable indicators of deception is inconsistency over time. Truth remains stable. Lies must be maintained, and maintenance is difficult. When details shift without a logical reason, it is often because the story is being reconstructed rather than remembered. Emotional leakage and micro-expressions. While skilled liars can control their words, controlling emotions is far harder. Emotions leak through the face, voice, and body in brief, often unconscious ways. These leaks are known as micro-expressions, fleeting facial expressions that reveal true feelings before the liar regains control. A person saying they are calm while their jaw tightens, nostrils flare, or eyebrows flash upward for a split second may be experiencing fear, anger, or surprise. These expressions are not proof of lying on their own, but they can signal internal conflict between what is felt and what is said. Tone of voice also matters. Liars may experience pitch changes, throat clearing, or irregular speech rhythms due to stress. Some speak faster to rush past the lie, while others slow down to carefully choose words. The key is deviation from their normal baseline behavior. Body language and deception. Contrary to popular belief, liars do not always avoid eye contact. In fact, many maintain excessive eye contact because they believe it makes them look honest. The real signal is unnatural behavior. Too much staring, forced stillness, or exaggerated nodding. The body often reveals what the mouth hides. Liars may unconsciously create barriers by crossing arms, placing objects between themselves and others, or leaning away. They may fidget, touch their face, rub their neck, or adjust clothing as a way to release nervous energy. Feet are particularly honest. While the upper body may be controlled, feet often point toward exits, shift restlessly, or pull back when a person wants to escape the interaction. This desire to withdraw can signal discomfort associated with deception. Again, context is crucial. Nervousness alone does not equal lying. The question is whether the behavior aligns with the situation and the person's usual demeanor. Language patterns of a liar. Words themselves carry clues. Liars often distance themselves from their lies linguistically. They may avoid using first-person pronouns, opting instead for vague or impersonal language. Saying mistakes were made instead of I made a mistake reduces psychological ownership. They may also rely on qualifiers and softeners such as to be honest, basically, or as far as I remember. These phrases are not lies by default, but they can indicate uncertainty or an attempt to persuade rather than inform. Another common pattern is unnecessary detail. Some liars over-explain, adding irrelevant specifics to make the story sound convincing. This can backfire as truthful accounts tend to include sensory and emotional details naturally, while fabricated ones rely on logical structure rather than lived experience. When asked unexpected or open-ended questions, liars may struggle. They prefer predictable questions because unpredictability increases the risk of contradiction. Asking a person to retell a story in reverse order or from another person's perspective can expose cracks in a fabricated narrative. The habitual liar. Not all liars experience guilt or anxiety. Habitual liars, especially those with narcissistic or antisocial traits, may lie effortlessly. For them, lying is a tool, not a moral dilemma. They may even enjoy the sense of control it brings. These individuals are often charming, confident, and persuasive. They mirror emotions, tell people what they want to hear, and adapt their stories fluidly. Spotting their lies requires a different approach. Emotional leakage may be minimal, but patterns over time are revealing. Habitual liars often create grand narratives, place themselves at the center of events, and oscillate between victimhood and heroism. Their stories may be dramatic but unverifiable. They may react defensively or aggressively when questioned, not because they are nervous, but because challenges threaten their constructed identity. With such individuals, the most reliable strategy is not confrontation, but observation. Watch how they treat others, how their stories change depending on the audience, and how reality consistently fails to match their claims. Self-deception and blind spots. One of the most complex aspects of lying is self-deception. People often believe their own lies because accepting the truth would shatter their self-concept. In these cases, spotting deception becomes difficult because the liar shows genuine emotion. A person who truly believes their narrative may display confidence, consistency, and emotional congruence. The lie is not in their delivery, but in the gap between their story and objective reality. This is common in toxic relationships, cult dynamics, and abusive environments, where repeated lies become internalized truths. Understanding self-deception requires separating intent from accuracy. Someone may not be consciously lying, yet still spreading falsehoods. Spotting this kind of deception requires critical thinking, evidence checking, and resisting emotional manipulation. The role of power and context. Power dynamics heavily influence deception. People in positions of authority may lie because they expect to be believed. People with less power may lie to survive. Context matters. A lie told under threat is psychologically different from one told for exploitation. This is why spotting deception cannot rely on a single gesture or rule. It requires holistic awareness of context, personality, stakes, and patterns. The goal is not to become paranoid, but perceptive. How to protect yourself from liars. The most effective defense against deception is not becoming a human lie detector, but strengthening your boundaries and critical thinking. Liars thrive where emotional dependency, urgency, and confusion exist. Slow things down. Liars often create pressure to force quick decisions. Ask for time. Verify information independently. Pay attention to how you feel around the person. Chronic confusion, self-doubt, or anxiety can be signs of manipulation. Trust patterns over promises. Words are cheap. Behavior is costly. A liar may sound convincing, but their actions will eventually betray them. Consistency between words, actions, and time is the strongest indicator of truth. The deeper truth about lying. Ultimately, the psychology of a liar reveals more about human vulnerability than malice. Lies emerge where fear meets desire, where truth feels unsafe, or where power rewards deception. Spotting lies is less about catching someone in the act and more about understanding human behavior deeply. When you learn to observe calmly, listen critically, and trust evidence over emotion, deception loses much of its power. The liar depends on your confusion. Clarity is their greatest enemy. To see deception clearly, you must first be honest with yourself about what you want to believe, what you fear losing, and what you are willing to ignore. Only then can you truly spot a lie, not just in others but in the stories we all tell to survive.